Need a GLA member who will represent, who actually started his political career. It's with great plans inequality, a social...
And we got to deliver that work that will take Sadiq Khan to City Hall.
And I'm warming up to him making a few words in a second. The third thing we need to do, of course, is to build that stepping stone to get a Labour government.
Don't anybody think this is not the grotesque inequality? Look at all the Tories get up as a whole. That's what's so exciting about this massive
Passion, our hunger for justice, and we need to get out.
Here with such good friends here, such good friends who worked all their life in the Labour movement, in all the campaigns for justice, peace, and so many other things. So when you vote in the elections in May, you're voting for a Mayor of London, for Sadiq Khan, you're voting for Unmesh Desai to be the representative for this district. And there can be no greater tribute to him than the work he's done starting in this borough all those years ago, fighting racism and injustice, and now he'll be able to take that fight to City Hall to represent this borough and all the issues that it faces. And it's a real pleasure to be here to absolutely endorse Unmesh Desai as your candidate for the GLA. And I want to thank John Biggs for his work on the GLA, representing this area. The intelligence, the detail, the way in which he supports causes and people, the way in which he brings about better quality planning, better quality housing and better quality government, and now bringing those skills to being the Mayor of Tower Hamlets. John, thank you for all you've done and all the... And to my friend Jim Fitzpatrick, who's here as one of the two MPs for this area, Rushnara, I'm not sure if she's here today. But Jim does a great job in fighting for this area and standing up for it and standing up for all the communities that we're dealing with at the present time. I want to say a couple of other things, if I may. On Wednesday, the government introduced its budget. That was a budget which was designed to, in the words of George Osborne, continue the good work he's been doing for the past 5 years. Well, that good work has led to the greatest levels of inequality this country has seen for a very long time. It was a budget that was about rebalancing taxation. They made a big deal about some aspects of it, but the real truth is, this is a budget that is a giveaway at the top end and a takeaway at the bottom end. And the idea that you will finance corporation tax cuts and capital gains tax cuts by cutting those people that need personal independence payments in order, with their disabilities, to be able to live independently, to live at home, to work, to study, and all those other things. To take 1 billion off the most vulnerable and needy in our society in order to fund tax cuts at the other end shows exactly where their sense of priorities lies. We will oppose this all the way. Parliament votes on this issue again. We are not giving in or giving up on this subject because we want to live in a society that recognises everyone has needs, everyone has opportunities, everyone should have the opportunity to make the most of their lives. Therefore, we do have anti-discrimination legislation. We do have a support system for those with disabilities. Not to patronise them, but to give them the opportunity to live independently, to make their contribution, to work, to study, and all those other things. I had people in my advice bureau last night in my constituency who are about to lose a very large amount of their independence payments if this proposal is allowed to go through. They were terrified of what their standard of living in life would be like if this went through. And so Ian Duncan Smith has belatedly decided to resign. Well, frankly, I wish he'd resigned about 6 years ago. Because in his era, what have we had? This We've had the loss of the Independent Living Fund from central government. We've had the continuation of the availability for work tests and all the brutality that goes with those. And so many people have committed suicide because they were so frightened of what was happening to them in our society. Have we become so cold-hearted as a society we force people into a situation where they consider taking their own life because they cannot see any way forward because of the brutality of a system that has been introduced? No, no and no. We are offering something very different, very much better, and frankly a more humanitarian approach to life and the way our society is run. We will oppose them all the way on this, and I promise you this, we're going to defeat them on this, okay? And when the election for London comes about, think for a moment of those that went before us. We're just alongside Cable Street. When my parents' generation were here, standing up against the racism and the fascism, standing up against those that wanted to kill Jewish people and destroy their lives and their homes. The same racism is around when it's Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, far-right racism or anything else. We are absolutely opposed to any form of racism in any way within our society. And the issues facing London are huge. I represent an inner London constituency like you do, and I'm fully aware, obviously, of all the housing problems that are faced in London. We're in the midst of a process where unregulated private rented sector, lack of council house building, overpriced private sector developments are forcing more and more people and families out of central London to more and more distant suburbs, or when the private rent goes up so much, they find another flat somewhere else a long way away. We can, must and will do things very differently in London. We need a housing programme that builds council housing so that people do have security. We need regulation of the private rented sector, and we need the ability of every child to have somewhere decent to live, and we need a programme to end homelessness in London. All the Tories are offering is pay to stay, selling off valuable properties and an unregulated private rented sector. London needs and deserves something very, very different and very much better. That is why a centrepiece of Sadiq Khan's campaign to become the Mayor of London is a housing policy that does deal with the homelessness crisis as well as the overcrowding and ill health crisis brought about by bad housing. The ones who went before, Herbert Morrison and so many others, had a vision of London as a city that did provide for the needs of all, did provide housing and all those things that are so necessary. We have to refight all those battles again in opposing the Tories' Housing Act and building a healthier London, a cleaner London. When I asked the Prime Minister on Wednesday what he's going to do about air pollution,